Hello, this is Barb Nish, and I'm happy to be with you this evening. And I must say it's been a couple of years since the last time I've done an interview, so I hope you'll enjoy being with us once again as we've chosen a really interesting subject and a couple of great people to visit with this evening. I'm here in Cardston, Main Street, in the very historic original first cabin that was built, and it's now called the Card Home, and was built in 1887, Rogena?
87, correct.
1887. That's quite a while ago for those of you that are way younger than that. Anyway, it's because of Priscilla Hatch, who was so excited about the Card Home and preserving our heritage and giving those of you out in Cardston and surrounding areas the opportunity to learn a little bit about some of our history. We have many wonderful people that live in Cardston who are old enough to know what these two sisters are going to be talking about tonight. And any one of them could have come and be the ones that we're interviewing. So I might just say that if any of you are most anxious to be interviewed, you just need to call Corey McCarthy, and he would be thrilled to set up an interview where we could talk to you about any of the things that you've experienced in your lives and share them with others around us. I don't know how, well, I've lived here all my life, and I've walked up and down these streets past this wonderful home, and I've been in it a number of times, but I haven't been in it for a number of years, and I have to say I marvel when I come in and I look at what they built. I look at the size of it, and I imagine the things that happened here way back then when there was hardly anybody here, and it was the wide open prairie, and it was cold, and it was bitter, and hard summers, and all that they went through, and the good times they must have had as those few settlers gathered here around this wonderful cabin. And so Priscilla got herself busy as only Priscilla can and talked to Rogena Bingham, who is a dear, sweet, wonderful woman who was born and raised in this town, lived away a number of years and retired and came back here, as well as her sister Ruth Rasmussen, who is a little bit younger than Rogena, and Rogena always calls her her baby sister, and they tease and have a wonderful time together because Ruth is also now retired and back here after having lived a number of years away from somewhere else. And I'm sure they're like all people who come back to Cardston. It is home. You can't be born and raised here without that deep feeling of love and appreciation that this is our home. And so at this time, we're so excited to have these two ladies, and if you ever get the chance to just sit down and visit with them, you'll visit for hours and you'll have the time of your life. They have so much information and so much knowledge and so much joy in living because of the experiences that they themselves have experienced. So we're going to take a few minutes, and I don't know if Corey's going to maybe get any time to perhaps take a few shots of some of the really neat parts of this cabin log home, but if he doesn't get that chance, we want you to know that it's open during the summertime, and there's tours and different things that happen. You can come in and see all the things. In fact, this Christmas we had a wonderful Christmas here at the cabin, did we not, Rogena?
We did.
Where she had a bunch of little kids that could come and visit, and Rogena told about the first Christmas that happened here in this cabin and the fun things that they did. And so any of you who might like to come and experience the beauties of this cabin and the reasons why it's here, you're more than welcome to come and enjoy it. It's open all summer. Now, we're going to let...
I can find that, but they arrived here. They arrived on the 3rd day of June in 1887, and there's a cairn here down now in the ballpark that describes and is actually a monument to the first pioneers that came, led by Charles Orcard. So they came, they arrived in the 3rd day of June, and the next day, everyone tumbled out of their beds early, and the men started to get out their plows and their seeds. They knew that they had to be self-dependent and had to produce all the food that they should eat for the next winter. So they were out then the next morning, the men with their plows and their seeds, and they put in great number of gardens, and even the little children helped. They threw the little potato eyes into their holes, and they were blessed that summer because the elements were just right. They had long, long days where the growth was abundant, and intermittently throughout the summer the rains came, and the seeds, the gardens, and the crops grew abundantly. All the days of the summer then lengthened out, and finally then came the beautiful days of the fall. When the first frost came in, the men realized it was time to harvest their crops, so they harvested their gardens and their crops that they had raised for their animals and stored them for winter. Then the women said to themselves, we must start now and prepare something for Christmas. What shall we get? And they had a consensus of opinion that they should make dolls for the girls. So one was quite handy in cutting patterns, and from newspapers she cut patterns for the dolls. And then the women had also, their flour sacks had been cleaned and bleached, so from the flour sacks they cut out the material and stitched everything by hand because they had no sewing machines whatsoever. So after they had got them sewed up, then they stuffed them with wool, and they got out their little bags, and they had so many things in their little bags, little cotton and gingham bits of material. They had fancy buttons that they could use for eyes and all different types of yarn. So the dolls were stuffed, and each doll was different than the other because they had a different kind of material and trim. So this little dolly was done with a gingham, and then some chose to knit little booties, and some actually crocheted these right into the scalp of the little doll. Then with colored yarn they could make the features here of the lips and the black for the eyes, and so it made a very cute little
That is
present
darling.
for
The dance pavilion was actually on an island. Lee's Creek came one way, and then there was a tributary that came around. Remember, Rogena?
Yes, they've
Yeah.
changed the course of the creek. When they
Yes.
put in the Remington Museum, they changed the course of the creek. But like Ruth said, the dance pavilion was on an island in those days.
Right.
Before the.
Do we know if there's any pictures? Have you seen any pictures of that?
Not that I know
don't-
of,
I
because
don't think so, because they took it down eventually, maybe in 3 or 4 years. They removed the dance pavilion.
I tried to find a picture of the old original bridge. It had big, oh dear, what was it called?
The
Bri-
cross?
Yes, and the boys used to run up over the top of those, and I used to just
Oh,
hold
my
my breath
goodness.
for fear they were going to fall. But I remember that actually our home was just, what would you say, a block or block and a half. And in the summertime, when the windows were open at home, you know, we were too young to go, of course, but we could hear that beautiful orchestra music, and what a lovely way.